Welcome, you curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're journeying into some really dark shadows in Japan. We're looking at 3 chilling cases, unresolved mysteries, terrifying abductions. These have haunted the nation for decades. And we're not just, listing facts here. We want to unravel these narratives, really get into the unsettling side of human nature, but also maybe the resilience of the spirit. So get ready. These stories are truly gripping. Okay, our first story. It takes us to Inokashira Park in Tokyo. Picture this. April 23rd, 1994. Seems like just another tranquil morning. A janitorial worker is doing her rounds, routine stuff. But then she finds something that just shatters the peace of the park. Sends shockwaves, really, across Japan. She opens a trash bin, sees this plastic bag. At first glance, it looked maybe like discarded fish, maybe for the stray cats in the park, but it was tied shut with this really thick, professional-looking knot. Something made her open it. Morbid curiosity, maybe. Anyway, she tears it open, and this terrible smell hits her. Unfamiliar, she said, way worse than just rotten fish. Inside, she sees a human ankle just resting on top of, other pieces of flesh. Yeah, it escalated quickly from there. Investigators show up. They end up finding 14 separate plastic bags scattered across almost 1.6 kilometers of the park. A pretty wide area.
Right, not just one spot.
Exactly. And inside these bags, 27 human chunks. It was about 1/3 of a male body. And each piece was first put into smaller, perforated draining sacks, then tied with these really precise knots.
The kind fishermen might use, or even medical staff. Very specific.
Identifying the victim was tough right away. His head was missing.
And the fingertips, too.
Yeah, the killer had sliced off his fingertips meticulously, with a razor blade, apparently, and scratched his palms like they were trying to erase any identification.
Oh, destroying evidence.
But through DNA testing and some remnants of a palm print they managed to recover, 3 days later they got an ID. Seichii Kawamura, a successful architect, first class, lived incredibly close to the park, actually. But his head, most of his torso, never found. Still missing today.
And what's truly disturbing here, beyond the obvious horror, is the precision. The body was sliced into these neat 20-centimeter pieces. They figured out it was done with an ordinary handsaw and a paring knife. Not exactly specialized tools.
But the way it was done.
Exactly. The muscle was cut away so carefully. It led the authorities to believe the butcher, for lack of a better word, had extensive medical training. Like a doctor, maybe a surgeon.
Wow.
And even more chilling, Professor Sato, who did the autopsy, he found the pieces were methodically washed and exsanguinated.
Meaning?
All the blood was drained, meticulously. He said not a single drop remained.
But the detail that just amplifies the horror, Professor Sato's autopsy, it revealed faint traces of internal bleeding in the muscle itself.
Which strongly suggests
that Seichii Kawamura was cut up while he was still alive.
It's almost unimaginable.
So how does this happen? How does a successful guy, seems unassuming, meet such a terrible end? Let's look at his last known movements. 2 days before the discovery, April 21st, he was celebrating a promotion, out with colleagues, drinking parties, sang karaoke, seemed to be having a good time. Later, he parts ways with them near Kichijoji Station, walks home alone. But he took an unusual route, apparently. Around 11:30 that night, witnesses reported seeing him arguing with 2 men outside a department store. Then, the next day, April 22nd, he doesn't come home. His wife, who was pregnant at the time, gets worried. This was totally out of character for him. She files a missing persons report. And then early morning, April 23rd, around 4 a.m., reports of 2 unidentified men seen entering Inokashira Park, carrying plastic bags.
Just hours before the janitor found the first piece.
Exactly.
But the motive, that's the huge question mark, isn't it? Given how meticulous this was, it feels like it wasn't just, a random act of violence or rage.
Right. Detectives really struggled. He had a good reputation, apparently no known enemies.
Which makes this kind of calculated, almost depersonalized violence even stranger. The victim becomes an object.
So the rumors started flying.
Oh yeah. Cults, criminal syndicates, even organ harvesting, especially with the head and torso missing, shows how hard it was to find a conventional why. Professor Sato, the pathologist, she looked at the remains and immediately thought, this wasn't one person. He pictured at least 4 people, working calmly, like an assembly line. One cutting, one adjusting, one washing, one packing.
Like a process.
Precisely. His gut feeling. A radical cult. People under intense mind control. Because, he figured, any normal person would be incredibly distressed doing this. These individuals clearly weren't.
There was also this theory about mistaken identity.
Ah, yes, Mr. A.
Right. A young street vendor, just known as Mr. A in the media. He was staying near the park and apparently looked a lot like Seichii.
So colleagues had even mistaken him for Seiichi before.
Yeah. So Mr. A had this story, claimed he'd accidentally interfered with some foreign intelligence agency's operation. He thought they were North Korean agents, mistook them for just rogue street vendors. His theory was these agents then mistook Seiichi for him.
It sounds pretty wild, but the details are scarce. We don't know how true his story is.
True. But the idea of foreign agents operating in Japan, well, as you'll hear in a bit, it's not completely unheard of. But despite all the interviews, all the searches, nothing, no more clues turned up. Then, March 1995, the huge Tokyo subway sarin gas attack happened.
Right, the Ashimchin Rikyo cult.
Yeah.
That must have pulled massive police resources.
It did. A lot of detectives got diverted to that investigation, and Seiichi's case, it tragically just fell by the wayside.
So the killers were never caught.
Never identified. And the statute of limitations, the deadline to prosecute, it ran out in 2009.
Meaning even if they confessed today.
No justice for his family. Legally, nothing can be done. It leaves you with this really chilling thought, doesn't it? Multiple people likely out there somewhere in Japan walking around with the knowledge of chopping a man up alive.
And nobody knows.
Okay, that mention of possible foreign agents. It brings us to another really dark chapter in Japan, a series of disappearances. Maybe less known in the West, but deeply, deeply ingrained in the Japanese psyche. We're talking about the disappearance of Megumi Yokota and also the terrifying ordeal of Fusako Sano. Let's start with Megumi Yokota. November 15th, 1977. She's 13 years old, bright kid, kind-hearted, walking home from school in Niigata Prefecture, and she just never makes it home, vanishes somewhere between school and her house. For 2 decades, her family lived in this agonizing uncertainty. No idea who took her, what happened to her, just gone.
And here's where it gets truly astounding and frankly quite disturbing from a state perspective. It eventually came out that the Japanese government knew for years. They knew Megumi was alive. They even knew where she was.
They knew and didn't tell a parent.
Kept it top secret. Cited national security, international relations. They knew she was in North Korea, the DPRK.
Why keep it secret?
It was a huge diplomatic issue. Revealing North Korea had abducted a Japanese citizen could have caused a major international incident. They basically weighed the family's anguish against potential geopolitical crises.
That's a brutal calculation.
Yeah.
So the truth wasn't some random predator. It was state agents. Megumi was in North Korea. It wasn't until January 1997, nearly 20 years after she vanished, that her parents finally learned the truth. Apparently on her way home, she accidentally saw something she shouldn't have. Activities of these North Korean agents on a secret operation in Japan.
It's wrong place, wrong time.
Exactly. One of the agents, believed to be Sing Wangzu, who was infamous for grabbing other Japanese nationals back then, dragged her onto a boat, sailed her straight to North Korea. Once she was there, she was put in a facility in Pyongyang with other foreign captives. They taught her Korean. Then later, she was forced to teach North Korean spies.
Teach them Japanese language and customs, right?
Yeah.
To help them infiltrate Japan.
Precisely. For years, North Korea denied everything. Flat-out denial. But then in 2002, they suddenly admitted it. Admitted they captured her back in '77. But their story was, she married another captive, a guy named Kim Young-nam, had a daughter, Kim Jong-gong, and then committed suicide in 1994.
That was their official line.
Yeah.
But if you look at the bigger picture here, Megumi's case isn't isolated. It's part of this larger pattern of state-sponsored abductions during the Cold War era. And the details North Korea provided about her life, and especially her death, they're shrouded in mystery and, frankly, a lot of suspicion.
They even sent back ashes, didn't they, as proof of death?
They did. Cremated remains. But Japanese DNA tests, well, they initially suggested the ashes weren't Megumi's at all.
Seriously.
Now, those tests were later questioned. The scientific journal Nature pointed out potential contamination issues, political interference, problems with how North Korea handled the samples, so it's officially inconclusive.
But for many Japanese people.
Right. The initial result fueled this widespread belief, which persists today, that she's actually still alive, still being held captive in North Korea.
And there have been undated photos surfacing over the years showing an adult woman who looks like Megumi. It just muddies the waters even more. Her true fate, still uncertain. People in Japan actively campaign for her return, even now. In 2014, her parents actually met their granddaughter, Kim Jong-gong, and their great-granddaughter.
In Mongolia, right, a secret meeting.
Yeah, It was seen by many as maybe a North Korean goodwill gesture, but others think it was just for their own political agenda.
And no new information about Megumi herself came out of it.
None. If she is alive, she'd be 58 today. She spent more than 3/4 of her life in North Korea. It's staggering.
Okay, this brings us to another story from that same prefecture, Niigata. Equally unsettling. Known in Japan as the Niigata Girl Confinement Incident, the case of Fusako Sano. Fusako was only 9 years old, May 13th, 1990. She disappears on her way home from a school baseball game in Sanjo, just vanishes. And given what happened with Megumi Yokota, you can imagine the immediate fear.
Foreign agents again?
That was definitely an initial theory. Did she accidentally see something? But Fusako was just an ordinary kid, no ties to Korea. It really shows how real that fear of abduction by foreign powers was for families in Japan then. A very specific regional anxiety.
But the truth here, it turned out to be less, James Bond, and much more. Silence of the Lambs, much closer to home. Fusako was abducted by a local man, Nobuyuki Sato. He was 28, unemployed at the time. Forced her into his car, took her back to his apartment, just 55 kilometers away in Kashiwazaki. And the apartment, get this, it was only 200 meters from a police station.
Unbelievable. Like under their noses.
And for 9 long years, Fusako endured this unimaginable ordeal inside that apartment. For the first few months, Sato kept her tied up. He'd punish her with a stun gun for tiny things, like if she forgot to record horse racing on TV for him.
She apparently learned to stun herself sometimes, just try and get used to it.
That's horrific. If she didn't answer him or try to escape or even leave her bed, he beat her. Sometimes he'd practice martial arts on her. She got fed only 1 meal a day, cooked by Sato's mother, who lived downstairs.
So the mother was involved in feeding her?
Yes. Fusako wore Sato's old clothes. If they didn't fit, he'd steal clothes for her. He avoided buying women's clothing himself, probably didn't want to raise suspicion.
The level of isolation here is just profound. She was only allowed to bathe once in 9 years.
Once.
Apparently, Sato himself disliked dirty things, so he avoided the bathroom. They both used a bag in the upstairs hallway as a toilet.
Oh my God.
The windows were blacked out. She couldn't see outside, couldn't feel the sun. Her only entertainment was the radio. She only got to watch TV in the final year she was there.
It wasn't just physical confinement, was it?
No, it was total psychological domination. He stripped away her identity, her connection to the outside world, any hope. It shows how trauma can completely paralyze the will to escape, even if the door isn't technically locked.
Her ordeal finally ended in January 2000. Fusako was 19 by then. Sato's mother contacted the public health center. She was worried about her son's erratic behavior, wanted him checked out. So officials visit the apartment on January 28th. Sato becomes aggressive with them.
Which led them to call the police.
Exactly. Police from the station just 200 meters away come to restrain Sato outside the building. And as they're dealing with him, Fusako walks downstairs, walks up to an officer, and says these words, just chilling. "My name is Fusako Sano. For 9 years, I haven't taken a step out of this house. Today, I've come out for the first time."
9 years, just like that.
And after 9 years without exercise, sunlight, proper food, socialization, education, you can imagine her state. Extremely thin, weak, pale. She had jaundice. Physically 19, but mentally still like a child.
Her family didn't even recognize her at first.
No. And she later said even though the apartment door was never actually locked, she was just too scared to escape. Eventually, she lost the will even to try.
Plus the malnutrition. Her hands and feet had withered. Movement itself would have been incredibly difficult. And this brings up the big question about Nobuyuki Sato's mother. What did she know?
She never faced charges, right?
No. She claimed Sato never let her upstairs, that she never heard a thing from Fusako in 9 years.
But authorities were suspicious.
Very. They suspected she knew. Allegations were made that she secretly bought feminine hygiene products for Fusako. And, she was cooking meals. Surely she knew she was cooking for 3 people, not just 2.
She maintains her innocence.
To this day. But it just highlights this terrifying possibility, doesn't it? That this kind of horror can hide in plain sight, meters from help, challenging our assumptions about, community awareness and how secrets like this can even exist.
So what happened to Sato? He was 37 when arrested. He was hospitalized initially, seemed mentally unstable, then formally charged. He admitted to the crimes, got a 14-year sentence, which seems low.
It does seem quite lenient for 9 years of that kind of abuse.
He was released in April 2015. Found dead, alone in his apartment 2 years later, and Fusako Sano. Her physical and mental health have reportedly improved over time, but she lives a mostly solitary life, still struggles socially.
Understandably.
And just adding to the tragedy, in 2007, her father drowned in a pond right in front of her during an outing.
Oh, that's just awful.
Yeah, she now apparently lives and helps out at her family's rice paddy. So these stories from Japan, they really paint a haunting picture, don't they? Human vulnerability, the dark things people are capable of. From the architect, Seichii, meticulously dismembered while possibly still alive,
To Fusako, held captive just meters from a police station.
and Megumi swept away into this world of international intrigue and espionage. Each story just leaves you with these profound questions and an undeniable chill. It reminds you the real horrors often aren't fantasy. They're the real unsettling things happening in quiet corners of the world.
Absolutely. And this discussion really highlights how we need to confront these uncomfortable truths, question our assumptions. You see the resilience of the victims, Fusako and Megumi's family, but also the stark reality of how easily a life can just be shattered. It underscores why critical thinking, looking for the whole picture, is so vital, even when the picture is deeply disturbing. From a behavioral standpoint, that meticulous planning in the Inokashira case, combined with the apparent randomness of the victim choice. That's a pattern that's particularly baffling, even for experienced profilers.
Well, we hope this deep dive into these chilling accounts has given you a lot to think about. For more stories exploring the darker side of human experience, please do find us over on YouTube. The channel is Horror Docx. And if you appreciated this deep dive, please give it a like, maybe share it with others who are into these kinds of true crime stories. And definitely subscribe to the channel for more unsettling narratives. Until next time, stay curious and be safe out there.